Hello and welcome to Northwest Newsweek. A woman from the Emo area has been charged with impaired driving and dangerous driving causing death following a highway crash late in the evening on November 21st in Alberton Township. A pickup truck traveling westbound lost control and rolled over into the ditch. 27-year-old Matthew Parise, who was a passenger in the vehicle, was pronounced dead at the scene. Police arrested the driver, 27-year-old Kendra Morrison, of Chapel Township. Thunder Bay's second COVID-19 related death was announced this week by local health officials. TBT News has learned the elderly victim passed away Monday night and was the parent of a local pickleball player. That news came this past Tuesday when there were a rash of new cases confirmed in the Thunder Bay district, including 7 at a long-term care home and the first positive case in Marathon. Corey Nordstrom has more on that.
Dr. Stuart Kennedy began the day's media session with sad news that a second person from the district has passed away due to COVID-19, the first since April.
The patient was a senior, and of course, you know, most of the seniors have some medical conditions, not all, but the patient did die of COVID-19.
This comes as the district health unit announces 14 new cases, with one of those being from Marathon. The case in Marathon and one from Thunder Bay have no known exposures, and all 14 are self-isolating. Also, the outbreak at Southbridge Roseview has grown, now with 12 residents and 3 staff testing positive.
Our team met again this morning, and we are making some preparations to reopen our COVID unit on 3A. For the first time since March, I lost sleep over this outbreak in Roseview Manor. So am I concerned? Yes.
There are 2 COVID patients in the hospital and none in the ICU. Kennedy says because they currently have an 84% occupancy rate, they can actually expand the types of patients that are allowed visitors.
We don't feel we're going to decrease the essential care visitors. In fact, you know, we have many exceptions, and we are revisiting that policy right now, and we are looking at really maybe opening up the essential care visitors to a bit more sort of increase the number of patients have an essential care partner.
Reports of staff at the regional hospital testing positive for COVID-19 were true. However, Dr. Kennedy says it happened several weeks ago and there is currently no risk to staff or patients. He adds that the recent surge in cases in the community is not having a negative impact on their ability to provide service, but the possibility that many staff could be off work due to close exposure with a positive case could be a challenge for the hospital. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
Marathon's mayor says the case announced in that community this week was a worker at the nearby Barrick Hemlo mine. At the onset of the pandemic, the municipality, like others in the Northwest, went to great lengths to keep the virus out of the community, and Marathon was successful in keeping the virus at bay, despite several major construction projects underway in the area, including the construction of the East-West Tie, which has brought hundreds of workers to town. Mayor Rick Dumas says while many were surprised by the case announcement, it was only a matter of time before COVID-19 made an appearance in the community.
It's a local resident who also works at Barrick Mines, so there's an impact that potentially could be at Barrick. So they're concerned, and they're doing contact tracing with, you know, fellow workers and other people that the individual has come in contact with. So the Thunder Bay District Health Unit is doing all the right things in regards to contact tracing, giving us reports back, working with the community.
6 others have been identified as close contacts, all involved are self-isolating. In a release from Barrick, the company says it had received rapid testing kits for its employees, and operations at the mine have not been affected. A week after Thunder Bay was moved into the yellow or protect zone in the provincial COVID-19 framework, the Northwestern Health Unit, which serves the Kenora and Rainy River districts, announced it too will be moving into the yellow. This comes after a spike in cases in the Kenora area, where as of Friday there were 20 of the 23 total active cases. Adam Riley recently spoke with the region's medical officer of health and chronicles how the situation evolved over the week.
What's disturbing, I guess, is that most of these cases are not related to out-of-region travel. So that means it does appear to be community transmission is happening in the Kenora area.
That was Northwestern Health Unit Medical Officer of Health Dr. Kit Young Hoon on Monday, following a recent spike of cases in the Kenora area that included another outbreak at a seniors' home and the first hospitalizations in the region since the pandemic began in March. During a joint press conference Tuesday between the Health Unit and the Lake of the Woods District Hospital, CEO Ray Reset provided assurances on the hospital's preparedness.
We do have funding from government to open additional beds if we need them for COVID-19. So we have that funding in place. So it is something that we will do if we start getting a surge of admissions.
Kenora Mayor Dan Reynard says while he believes the city is doing okay despite the rise in cases, he can't help but look at neighboring districts and feel surrounded.
You know, we've got Manitoba to the west of us, and they're probably one of a province right now that is having a lot of issues. You see to the west or to the east where Thunder Bay, the numbers are slowly growing, much like ours are. And we don't even want to talk about the situation that's going on to the south of us with the Dakotas and Minnesota.
While there are no restrictions or warnings on the Manitoba-Ontario border, save for one sign, there is nothing impeding Manitobans who are in a lockdown from entering Ontario and shopping, eating, or recreating in communities, save for some area First Nations who are taking no chances and entering a lockdown. Then by Friday, with cases continuing to add up, it was announced.
Our region will be moving to the yellow level according to the provincial's Keeping Ontario Safe and Open framework. This level requires more restrictions, mostly applied to workplace settings and businesses.
As of Friday, the NWHU has 23 active cases, 20 of which localized in the Kenora area, with the other 3 regions, the Dryden Red Lake area, the Rainy River District, and the Sioux Lookout region, all sitting with 1 case each. The yellow or protect stage will come into effect on Monday. Adam Riley, TBT News.
A 38-year-old Nipigon man has been sentenced to 11 months in jail after pleading guilty to several charges, including possession of drugs, explosives, and a modified shotgun. But Stephen Mahoney will be released from custody next month after credit for time served. Mahoney was arrested at a Nipigon residence in the spring. During the search, officers found 3 detonators among other illegal items, including various chemicals, paramedic and police uniforms, a sawed-off shotgun, a butterfly knife, throwing stars, and other stolen property. The police warrant was initiated following the disappearance of Alyssa Turnbull, who, according to Mahoney's lawyer, was Mahoney's roommate at the time of her disappearance. It was a tough financial pill to swallow, but the township of Marathon has fully disposed of the Peninsula Tug at nearly 8 times the initially estimated price. The demolition marks the end of a story that started with such promise as a way to protect the history of a small town, but it turned into what local officials call a financial and environmental nightmare. Adam Riley has the details.
But the reality is we had to take those measures to protect the residents of our community.
The saga of the peninsula started more than 2 years ago when the Marathon Historical Society set out to save a piece of the town's nautical history by purchasing the tug, which was built in 1943 and after the Second World War contributed to the North Shore pulp and paper industry. The Society's goal was to save it from the scrapyard and display it in the town, despite it not fitting in with Marathon's strategic plan. Mayor Rick Dumas says council allowed it to continue, a decision they regret.
They were going to bring some history and create a small tourist attraction with this. As council, we looked at our strategic plan and it didn't fit in. It wasn't part of our strategic plan as part of tourism or with the Historical Society. We still continue to allow it to go forward, not thinking of the magnitude of the project.
At first, things went well. A fundraising drive earned the needed $100,000 to purchase the tug, and the group sailed her back to Marathon in 2018. But that is where they hit a snag. There was nothing available that could lift the 260-ton behemoth out of the water, so she sat beached on the shoreline. 2 years later, the town ordered the peninsula removed by demolition as it posed an environmental hazard.
Any cracking or holes in the tugboat's outer hull, which was deteriorating, would have resulted in a major chemical spill. Given its beaching within Lake Superior, this would have been an environmental disaster with long-lasting harmful effects on marine, aquatic, wild, and plant life.
Dumas says the final cost to demo the tug, including legal fees accrued during a legal battle with the Historical Society, cost the municipality $273,000, much more than the originally estimated $35,000. He says that is due to the more than anticipated amount of hazardous materials inside the tug. Dumas says it was money well spent, but it wouldn't have had to have been spent had a proper plan been in place, something he says they will never do again.
There will be no other project ever coming to the municipality unless there's a detailed plan, financial plan, and it fits within the municipal strat plan, which is the most important key of why this project ended up the way it did.
Dumas says the taxpayers won't directly face the burden of the costs, as the money will be coming from town reserves. Adam Riley, TBT News.
When we come back, Council in Fort Frances discusses the future of the controversially named Colonization Road. Council in Fort Frances spent a good portion of Monday's meeting discussing the possibility of a name change for Colonization Road. It's one of two such initiatives that have been put forth in the region in recent months. A committee is studying the possibility of changing the name of Colonization Avenue in Dryden as well. Fort Frances Councillor Douglas Judson has brought a motion forward to have council there initiate a similar process. It was discussed at length during Monday's meeting. Initially, Judson hoped the motion would pass immediately, but he amended the motion to allow more time for town council to weigh its options and make a decision about the future.
Its story will become about how we reflected on the type of community we have been and took action at a transformative time in our history to better reflect the type of community we want to be in the future. That is a noble project, and I ask for your support to move it forward through direction at the next meeting of council, even if you're skeptical right now.
Some other councillors support the change, but others still want to gather more information. Council has now referred the motion to two executive committees of council for further discussion. However, that move doesn't prevent Judson or another councillor from bringing the motion forward again next month. Two companies with lithium deposits in northwestern Ontario have partnered and are exploring the possibility of building a lithium chemical plant on Thunder Bay's waterfront. If it happens, the economic opportunities could be great. Michael Mahorovich has those details.
Almost every form of clean, sustainable energy requires one key ingredient: lithium. 40% of the world's reserves are found in the Uni salt flats in Bolivia, but this white gold is also found in northern Ontario's dense regions. Two companies hope to capitalize on those reserves Avalon Advanced Materials and RockTech Lithium have signed a letter of intent to develop a lithium processing facility on Thunder Bay's waterfront.
Well, we both have had aspirations for getting a lithium production business going for some time. The fact that Northern Ontario, we have all the necessary resources in the ground to start using them to create these supply chains of all the critical minerals needed in battery technology.
Both companies already have lithium sites in the region. RockTech's Georgia Lake project is near Beardmore, about 145 kilometers northeast of Thunder Bay. Avalon's Separation Rapids lithium project is located 70 kilometers north of Kenora.
The first step is always to recover bulk samples to start testing your processing flow sheet to make sure it's going to perform to expectations. We're ready to go with that. We still have some of that work ongoing at the present time to finalize what the process will look like, and then work closely with RockTech on defining the specifics of what the plant flow sheet will look like to accommodate both their feed materials and ours.
The economic opportunity for Thunder Bay could be vast. John Mason, who works with the Community Economic Development Commission, is encouraged by the news and thinks that there's even more value to be added.
That chemical plant would produce lithium sulfate, which could go into batteries for electric vehicles, producing lithium carbonate or hydroxide. And those products then would lead to the possibility for value added. Could we have a battery facility? That's the big question. In lockstep with an industrial mineral project on the waterfront. So it could be huge for Thunder Bay.
For now, the battery manufacturing facility is just an idea, but the lithium processing facility seems like a real possibility, and both companies would like to see construction get underway within 2 years. The next step for all parties involved is to find a suitable location along the waterfront, and that process has already begun. Michael Mahorovich, TBT News.
An investigation into whether or not Emo Mayor Harold McQuaker violated the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act has wrapped. The township's integrity commissioner began the inquiry 6 months ago following a pair of complaints that McQuaker didn't declare a conflict of interest regarding a tender that was voted on by council. Adam Riley explains.
It is alleged Emo Mayor Harold McQuaker did not declare a pecuniary interest regarding a tender that was won by his son in May of this year. Part of the investigation included audio recordings from 3 sessions of council that were held via Zoom. However, the investigation discovered that all 3 audio files were not complete and did not record the entire session. The report concludes that while McQuaker did have a pecuniary interest, and there was no written statement by McQuaker prior to the meeting declaring a conflict, there was no evidence that would substantiate any wrongdoing to influencing the vote, and McQuaker did not participate in the vote, nor was there any discussion by council on the tender. However, in closing, the Integrity Commissioner's report states that a minor reprimand is warranted and made several recommendations, including that the mayor files a written declaration, the mayor undertake a refresher on the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, the township establish a registry in accordance with the MCIA, and optionally, that all members of council participate in an educational refresher. Adam Riley, TBT News.
A familiar face is back leading the Lac Seul First Nation following a banned election earlier this month. On November 13th, Clifford Bull was elected once again to the role of chief. Bull served the community for 16 years in other roles prior to running in the 2018 provincial election for the Progressive Conservatives in the newly established Kiiwetinoong riding. And while he was unsuccessful, placing second to the NDP's Saul Mamakwa, Bull was still able to assist the Ford government after being appointed as a special advisor for Indigenous Affairs in December of that year. Lac Seul First Nation is located east of Sioux Lookout and has a population of 3,000 people, 900 of whom live within the community. A new president and CEO of the Thunder Bay Regional Hospital has officially taken the reins. Rhonda Crocker-Ellicott began her new role on Monday. It's quite the challenge in the midst of a pandemic. The new CEO says she didn't quite picture this when she first started as a nurse in Thunder Bay. The new president has been put to work right away and is looking forward to the hospital's new strategic plan. Crocker-Ellicott says the challenges brought on by COVID-19 will be used as a learning tool as they expand and innovate in the coming years.
Virtual care, maybe in the ER, wasn't a thing that we would necessarily think about if we hadn't experienced some of what we are in the pandemic. Would we really think that preoperative patients could be managed the way that they're being managed now? Probably not. So I think it really enables us to think differently, think out of the box, innovate, and support our staff to come up with some really different ways of doing business.
Crocker-Ellicott says she's impressed with the way hospital officials are handling the pandemic and is eager to support them going forward. Coming up after the break, after a lot of uncertainty, SIJHL hockey players across the Northwest lace up for the season. The SIJHL season is underway. After months of uncertainty and 3 weeks of exhibition play, the league officially kicked off the 2020-21 campaign on Friday. Even with the drop of the puck, there are still hurdles the league has to clear. Michael Mahorovich reports.
Cautious optimism has replaced uncertainty as the feeling hanging over the SIJHL. The league will finally play regular season games this weekend, knowing that safety and vigilance are still at the forefront.
There's a high level of concern, I mean, we've got a situation where, we've got teams and athletes that are eager to play, also very, very in tune with the feelings in our communities as well, So it's a welcome diversion. It's something that the communities, I think, have enjoyed when they got to experience the games coming back in. It gives them something else to talk about, but, we're cognizant of the fact that, there's risk involved with it as well.
The Cam River Fighting Walleye and Thunder Bay North Stars will kick off the season Friday, while the Dryden Ice Dogs and Red Lake Miners will play 4 games over 5 nights between November 29th and December 3rd. Fort Frances likely won't start until the new year, and the season will start without the American teams.
When we reconvene in January, what we're going to have is a 5-day window for us to get our 4 games in. Then we'll go into a 14-day kind of league pause to allow the cohorts to reset each other and pair up with another team, and we'll go through 4 cycles of that. We are trying to get permission to bring another team into our schedule. So had we gone with just the 5 or incorporating the American teams, the 7 teams, it's always going to leave one team on the outside looking in.
Each team will play 20 games this season, and the top 4 teams will make the playoffs. Michael Mahorovich, TBT Sports.
Two of Ontario's top cabinet ministers are joining the call for the removal of all duties on Canadian softwood lumber. This comes after the U.S. Department of Commerce reduced the duty deposit rates for some BC exporters, but not for sawmills in Ontario. Natural Resources and Forestry Minister John Yakabuski and Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade Vic Fedeli issued a joint statement this week. They say it's never been more important to vigorously defend our forestry industries. The U.S. recently reduced duties for many British Columbia companies from 20% to 9%. But according to Resolute Forest Products spokesperson Seth Kurzman, the duties in Ontario and Quebec went up slightly to 19% for reasons he calls absurd. Yakabuski and Fedeli say the duty rates put the province's softwood lumber industry and the workers at an unfair disadvantage during this already difficult time. And they say the rate for all companies should be zero, as that is the definition of free trade. The fundraising committee for Atikokan's Aspen Court is pushing hard on a major fundraising campaign for the holidays. Construction of Aspen Court began last month, and while the building is bought and paid for, appliances on the inside like stoves, refrigerators, washers, and dryers are not. Executive Director of Community Living Atikokan, Jim Turner, says a campaign to raise the necessary funds is well underway, and while several businesses have provided a boost, a separate Buy a Brick campaign is getting an enhancement.
And what we're doing is launching specifically the Buy a Brick for the holidays. And we're asking people, businesses, employers to buy a brick for themselves, for their family, for their employees, or in memory of somebody. And that way, their name will be on the building as we complete the Aspen Court Senior Living Complex.
Turner is hoping to raise $10,000. Bricks are $100 each and can be purchased through the Community Living Atikokan website. Construction on Aspen Court is expected to be complete by late next year. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for watching.